In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how you can easily and quickly develop reports in Dream Report Studio using the Proficy Suite. First, we'll open the Dream Report Studio and create a new project. First step in after you create a new project is to configure your drivers. See here we have a lot of GE drivers. For this demonstration, I'm going to show connectivity to Proficy Historian. So let's first configure our Historian driver. It's the Historian ODBC provider. Click Next, test your connection. Click OK when you're done. Many retrieval modes, all the retrieval modes are supported in Dream Reports. For our demonstration, we're going to use interpolated and an interval of milliseconds. You see there's other options such as iFix and simplicity, both native historical values, and also real-time values and alarms. The real-time values and alarms utilize the Dream Reports Logger Studio for logging to your SQL or Access database. For the purposes of our project today, we have all of our iFix data being stored in our Proficy Historian. So we're going to rely on Historian for most of our data connections. But should you have a need or want to directly connect to a PLC or OPC enabled device, you have that option with the Dream Report Logger Studio. You'll see some other drivers listed here. Now for plain applications, we're going to choose our ODBC historical values driver. Provide a logical name. And in this case, we're actually going to map to a specific table in our SOA database for plain applications. Previously, I created the DSN file using the DSN Manager in Dream Reports. Username and password will connect to our SQL SOA database, and then find our production plan column, which will contain the data we're most interested in reporting on for this project. There's our production plan table. Now, for ease of reporting and report development, we're going to map this table and define which column is the date field for Dream Reports. This will allow for easy creation of charts and graphs and allow us to browse to the columns in Dream Reports and associate them quickly and easily to a date field without the need for SQL scripting. As you'll see in some of the reports we develop, there are times when you would like to use SQL scripting, and that's fully supported. But for most applications, and one of the big advantages of Dream Reports is that SQL scripting is not required and not needed. So we've told Dream Reports which column our date field exists in. Now, we've fully mapped, for our purposes, our plain applications production plan table. Don't forget to add your driver after you configure it. Now, back here in our Dream Report Studio, we're going to do a couple things to define in our project. First of all, our database definition. It defaults to Access, but we're going to use Microsoft SQL Server. Test our connection, and we're done. Next, I mentioned, as we went through earlier, DSN Manager. Here, you see we have a DSN called Plain Applications. We could add a new one if it didn't exist. You use that plus button. Put our login and password information. Give our DSN for this project a specific name. Add it. Click OK. You can also test that DSN. Now, we've got a report, it defaults to report name of report 0. We're going to change that. And the first report we're going to configure and develop today is going to be demonstrating our connectivity to our Proficy Historian. And we're going to use our Proficy Historian data default to a PDF format, although we have the option of mapping to Excel. Now, I'm going to apply a page template that I previously created in Dream Report Studio. This report is for our company, Quality Manufacturing. Since we have a wastewater plant discharging to a local POTW, there are certain requirements and permit limitations we have in place. This report is going to address those needs. We're going to create a step table for compliance reporting. You can change the format, bold, select different fonts, increase the font size. Move your objects around according to your need on the report. Now, I'm going to create a step table. For the step table, first step we must take is to define the number of columns. For our permit, we are interested in the maximum turbidity. That's what our POTW has requested, that we report the maximum turbidity of our water for every day of the month. Since we're in September, we have to provide the report for August, and that's how we're going to configure our report. It's going to be a fixed period for the last month, which means the last complete month. In this case, since we're in September presently, it will cover the month of August. Again, based on our mandates, our regulatory permits, this report will aggregate data every day. And we are looking specifically, or most interested in, that maximum turbidity level. Our first column in our step table will be the date. Our next column, step data, will reference our historian tag. There's our turbidity tag. Our statistical function, in this case, is going to be maximum. But of course, we have a right array from which to choose. We can also change the appearance of the values and add an advanced SQL condition or advanced visualization if necessary. Now let's improve those captions. And of course, add a table name. Our footer, which we will now add. The footer will tabulate the data from our step table, those daily maximum turbidity values, and it'll provide a calculation or some sort of statistical analysis of that array. In this case, we also want to report the monthly maximum turbidity, which is nothing more than referencing our step table max turbidity object, and we'll look at the maximum of all of those values that we retrieve. A very, very convenient way to aggregate and report on a list of tags that is user-defined and dynamic in number. Now finally, for this particular report, we're going to do one more task, and that is add a trend chart. But before we do that, we didn't input our month. It said maximum turbidity. By choosing a dynamic time date object, we'll choose the start of our report period. We'll define now that we've gone through some of the formatting of our step table, it's time to go ahead and add our trend chart. Because those turbidity numbers are coming in once a second in our historian, might be a little bit noisy on the trend chart. So instead, what I'm going to do is create an aggregated data filter, which will provide the maximum daily value for any tag to which it is applied. That we've created the aggregated data filter, we'll simply apply it to our trend chart. Add the line, and then in our Appearance tab, add our chart name and define our y-axis scale limit. And go ahead, adjust the formatting if we need to, column sizing, or simply drag our table. We don't have to worry about placement of our graph in relation to our step table. Dream Reports will take care of that upon report generation, and it will move the trend chart down accordingly. Might be a good time to go ahead and save our work. We're going to create yet another report. This one to demonstrate plant apps, the connectivity to plant apps, and use some of the data from our SOA database to populate some bar graphs and tables. On the right-hand side, our toolbar, we've got a choice of our widgets. We're going to go ahead and first apply our page template. Now, we're going to graph via a bar chart actual good and bad items produced by month over the past 2 quarters. So in our data source, we'll select our ODBC production plan table that we created earlier in our driver configuration section. We are going to, in fact, sum the items for each month over these past 2 quarters. Our bar period is going to be month. And again, we're summing the bad items first. So let's go ahead and format that in red. And then our good items, and we'll format those in green. Again, sum of all the good items produced for each month for the past 2 quarters. In the Appearance tab, again, we have the option of selecting our scale limit mode and providing a bar graph name. Also, you'll see you have the Advanced SQL Condition tab, and this inserts a where statement to allow for filtering of data. Now we will add our line chart. We're going to sum the good and bad items for the last 2 quarters. We'll do this by selecting our tags, adding lines, adjusting our scale limit once again. And actually, for the purposes of this line chart, we may want to go ahead and add a SQL where condition to filter that data and make it a little bit more meaningful. We do that first by selecting our data source. Which is going to be product ID. So we're going to add the product ID field, and we're going to only report the good and bad items for product ID of 8. We'll save our report once more. And finally, add yet another report. This report will demonstrate the ability to easily call stored procedures from our SOA Plan Applications database using the Dream Reports SQL table and a direct SQL query. Again, we'll choose PDF file format. We'll leave that default. And this report will also be web interactive. We're going to apply a report template this time, one that I previously created with our stored procedure already in place. Here's our SQL query, which is our call of our stored procedure in our Plan Applications database. You see the web elements. We've got timestamp pickers and also combo boxes that from the web portal, a user will be able to select the duration over which they want to run the report and also which production unit report on OEE. Their equipment efficiency. Our widget is a single data object, and it is going to graphically report on our current production rate. From the web element menu, we can select combo box, list boxes, inputs, and action buttons. Using a SQL query table, we can directly add any SQL query using the same SQL functions supported in your Microsoft SQL Server. Now let's run our reports. First is we'll reload the reports. There you see, we've got the maximum turbidity for every day over August. At the bottom, our monthly maximum is displayed according to our footer. And then finally, our trend chart with our daily maximum turbidity trend. Next, we're going to generate our Plan Applications charts, where we're charting our good versus bad items produced by month. And then the good versus bad items produced for our product ID 8. In this case, a little bit easier to read. So maybe we'll go and do that later. Now let's open the web portal and interact to produce an OEE report. Before we do that, configure IIS for this project, which allows Dream Reports to create and map all the necessary virtual directories to your active project. Here you can see we can view the PDFs that we've already created and then open our web report. So what you see here is a combo box that's populating our list box below. From our product description, we are bringing in a product ID number, which is used in our stored procedure. Now, by selecting which date we would to run the report for OEE, hit refresh. Oh, and you'll see something didn't work. Well, if we go back to the Dream Report Studio, what we didn't do initially is change our data source from what was in the existing report template to our active project data source. An easy mistake, an easy item to overlook, but an important one. We'll go ahead, save our changes, and reload our report once more. Open our web portal. Select our date range. Hit the refresh button. Now we have our OEE report with our widget graphically displaying our most recent production rate. And that concludes this demonstration of Dream Reports for use with the Proficy Suite.